What's happening? I hit the go live button. What's going on? Okay, I think it's working now. With my internet cooked or something? What's going on, big dog? The current bit rate. I don't know what that mean. I'm 6,000 years old. I don't know nothing about no bit rates. All right. I think we good. Oh, living in a real dangerous, precarious situation out here. Get a little, get a little bit of that agua. Shout out to No Country for Old Men. What's his name? I don't remember the old boy's name. Josh Brolin. I can't remember what the name of the character was, but he saw that dude mid post clappery. He was in that car looking like he was going to the upper room. Bro was like, please give me some water. He like, I ain't got no agua, bro. He like, please give me that agua. He like, nah, dog. I got some money to go find. He finds the money, but he gave the man the agua, and then he ended up dying in the swimming pool. I just realized that that's how it went down. But before that, you know what I'm saying? He was living high off the what was it, high on the hog for about 17 minutes. Then it was like, oh bro, it's somebody following you. The greatest villain, not the greatest, but one of the greatest villains in movie history is right behind you, big dog. With the worst haircut I've ever seen. He was walking around menacing people with a bowl cut, bro. Like big bowl cut was on the prowl, giving folks the business. But I just came back on here for a little bit, just to say my piece on this whole Lakers Nugget situation. I'm seeing a lot of real or fake, I'm not sure, predictions. A lot of Nuggets believers out there. And like we did ahead of the last series, you know what I'm saying? Rev that shoulder up, make sure we nice and limber as possible for this prediction that's going on, you know what I'm saying? Which is, once again, for the third straight series, Lakers in 6. All right? Just want to put that out there for everyone so everyone knows where I stand. Anthony, you know this is a take economy. We can't just talk about basketball and not get these takes off, you know. We can't just talk on the internet in general without picking a side, ladies and gentlemen, even though there's no ladies and or gentlemen in here. I think I'm the only person in here right now. My jaw is clicking crazy. But Lakers in 6. For various reasons I might get to in an actual video as opposed to doing it on stream all the time because YouTube don't be showing my streams. You know what I'm saying? I thought it posted on the main channel, but it's a little live tab and that's where everything posted. I don't like that too much. You know what I'm saying? So I might start making these into actual like videos, even though it's gonna be still like freeform talkery. I don't know, a little fake podcastery. Who's to say? But oh, what's up, 91? What's going on? I always that name always cooked me for a minute because I'm like, dude, that say 99? Because that NE be cooking me at the, but all numbers pretty much, not all numbers, but a good number of numbers be like, you know what I'm saying, 1, 9, and the 90, and NE, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Perhaps, per snaps, that's what's going on. But, what was I saying? I don't remember. But, Lakers in 6, I think that Denver's depth, to me, is being a little oversold as to how it relates to how it would match up with the Lakers and things like that. Because although they okay, I don't know if that affected anything. I think we good now, but the OBS just disconnected, and I got an alert I've never seen on this. Depth is being overblown. No, not overblown, but oversold relative to the Lakers because I think the Lakers actually have a deeper team. Just from a standpoint of being able to do more things on the basketball court as opposed to guys who are pieces that fit with Jokic and around his like ecosystem as a basketball player. Because if you take him out of the equation, like they can run some lineups with Bruce Brown at the point and all this other stuff, and maybe small ball five Aaron Gordon and like try to make some shake that way. But like the ceiling between what they are with Jokic on the court and without him on the court is like wildly different, of course, because he's the MVP and everything. But just from a basketball standpoint of if Jokic is somewhat contained, where do you go next? Uh, I'm not personally. Oh, that's what I was talking about. The lack of creation that they have outside of the Jokic ecosystem is something that I don't want to see in my basketball team if I want to pick you to go to the finals necessarily. Like Bruce Brown has creation in some respects, even though I don't think he's like the best ball handler in any. He's more of his creation is more predicated on getting in motion and like kind of surveying advantages that are kind of already built into him getting the ball in certain areas, as opposed to him creating just out of, I'm not going to say out of nothing, but being more of a pure creator type. And then Jamal Murray, I don't trust him as like a distributor at all, really. Like he has some ability to do it, but he's another one in these long line of guys who are passers that are based on their scoring ability, as opposed to being like natural playmakers. So like if you give Jamal Murray like his option in a pick and roll situation or something like that, he's going to look to like score first. And I don't think he's necessarily the best ball handler in terms of handling ball pressure. I think you can disrupt him a little bit. And then just like the type of creation a lot of his creation is like with Jokic, as opposed to being this guy who creates, what's the word I'm looking for? Indiscriminately, I guess we could say. And that was a big reason I was like, I didn't think they were going to be like the number one seed or anything like that preseason, but I had totally forgot that they got Bruce Brown. Like I forgot he was on the team. So I'm like, all right, they got Jokic, they got Murray, then who next? Like KCP, like, you know what I'm saying? So, but I do think that, like I was saying, I think that they have several things that people think are advantages that are not advantages. People talking about who's going to guard KCP on the perimeter, like who's D'Lo going to guard on the perimeter, who's going to guard MPJ, like all this other stuff. And a lot of people just don't, when they make these prognostications and all this other stuff, they don't think about the other end of it. The Nuggets have to guard the Lakers too. And like in every previous series, I think the Lakers top end talent and then the ancillary 3 through 6 guys are better than the Nuggets guys. I just do. Like, I'm not worried about Aaron Gordon outside of cutting. I think Aaron Gordon's very volatile if you put him in certain positions to, like, make his own decisions. And I think that we will see that play out over the series. Maybe he has a game where he misses a lot of threes or whatever the case may be. Not threes, but just, like, shots in general. I've seen him implode in this way several times already. Excuse me. And then I think that the gap or the perceived gap between a Jamal Murray and a D'Angelo Russell or even Austin Reeves to a lesser extent is not that wide. In fact, I don't think there's a gap at all between Jamal Murray and D'Angelo Russell, but that's just me being being a respecter of a D'Angelo Russell more so than like what people may think. But I think that for all Murray's brilliance as a scorer, in certain respects, even though he's a little bit of a gunner in a lot of ways, I think that the playmaking that D'Lo provides bridges the gap much closer. And I think that defensively is not any particularly like great chasm or difference in that. So I think that the Lakers have 3 to 4 viable options that I can realistically see winning multiple games, as opposed to if Jokic is not cooking, then like I don't see what the Nuggets are going to do. Like, I just don't. I do think that AD watch is going to be very important in terms of him staying on the floor. I think Jokic, will be hunting ways to get him off the court via foul trouble, trying to rough him up a little bit. But on the same end, like Jokic has to defend, and I think that Jokic is a little more volatile than people like to think he is. He hasn't really done it this year, but I think there's ways you can take Jokic out of a basketball game, like mentally sometimes. Like we saw it in 2020, where they just put Dwight in the game just to rattle him a little bit, and he started picking up goofy fouls and like doing things like that. He doesn't do it as much anymore, but I don't think they face the level of adversity this season to really like see if that's something that's going to continue to happen. So I'm willing to see. I'm ready to see what kind of quote unquote tactics the Lakers might employ to kind of get Jokic off balance and stuff like that. Did I see this? Oh, okay, that's what that says. Um, but I know a lot of people are talking about the starting lineups and whether or not Vando should play and whether or not you should start Dennis and or Rui and all this other stuff. And my personal thoughts on that is I'm a wait and see person when it comes to that stuff, because I do think that if there's something that shows to be like a foundational issue, I need you to show it to me first before I like start making adjustments to something that I think is going to happen. I need to see, like, even if it's like the first 4 minutes of this series, we see that Vandal's on the court, he's being ignored, he's missing the corner three that they give him, and his defensive utility is not as much in this series because the Nuggets don't really have a lot of guys who can go off the dribble, as opposed to like being spot up guys that can be guarded by quote unquote lesser defenders, but you know, like that don't require a Vandal level of attention. Like Murray, I don't think he's going to require Vandal to be chasing him around through pick and roll stuff like that. I think Austin can guard Murray well enough, and so if you have that kind of dynamic going on the court, I just started this sentence because I definitely forgot the last sentence I was saying. Oh, but if you want to make that adjustment before, I'm of the opinion that you make the Nuggets show you that Vandal can't play either in the starting lineup or in this series as a whole, and then you go to either Dennis or Rui. Personally, I would try Rui first, because although like the Dennis, D'Lo, Austin lineup has been tremendous for like a majority of the time they played together, I don't think it was that great in the Memphis series, but I think a lot of that was kind of LeBron just kind of trying to commandeer things in a way that he really wasn't, and the rhythm was kind of off. And plus Memphis was a more physical team, so they can kind of exploit having three guards out there as opposed to the Warriors and the Nuggets in this sense too. But I think that that's something that you just save for when you need it, or you just go to it during the course of a game, as opposed to like making that your starting lineup and giving Denver times and ways to like get used to it and kind of adjust to it. Now maybe it just be the case that lineup just blows them off the floor and you just go to it and pound these guys into submission. That sounds crazy, but I'm more of a if you need to make an adjustment, you can make it in game as opposed to doing it wholesale before the series starts. So I would personally start Vando, and then go from there. I do think you can still get some minutes from him in this series if he proves to not be playable in the starting lineup. I think that him with the bench lineups can still provide some utility, but we'll see. I think this could be a big Austin and D'Lo series for sure. Jokic, for all of his greatness, is you know what I'm saying, Denver has a decent defense relative to, you know, what you would think it would be with Jokic out there. But I think there's a lot of points to be had in the mid-range area. Now, whether or not they pack the paint and just force you to shoot those jumpers is, you know, something we'll have to see. But I do think that Austin and D'Lo in particular can have great success against this defense. I think that Michael Porter Jr. is probably the X factor in this series in terms of his activity level and his attentiveness while he's on the floor. Because for all of his good offensive prowess, like he's not particularly like, he's gotten better off the ball. I mean, not off the ball. He's got better as like a ball haver, but he's still a man with a high shaky dribble in some respects, and he's not really going to create outside of being set up in certain ways where he's one of the best finishers that you're going to see on the court. But like he's not, from what I can recall, he's not particularly like a super dangerous movement shooter in any respect, and he can probably attack off some curls and some things like that, but it's nothing that is gonna like do you in too crazy if you pay attention to him. But if he's just making his jumpers at a rate that's giving the Lakers problems, and then he's not giving it away too much on the defensive end, I think he's going to be the guy who kind of swings the series in one way or another. because, like I said, outside of Jokic and Murray, I'm not. Bruce Brown can give you a game, maybe. I'm not trusting KCP in any, even though that's my dog, Ken Spravius. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Ken Spravius, but he's shown me recently, not recently, but like even in the bubble and things like that. Once the level of competition got higher as the playoffs went on, he became a little more shaky. His numbers were like his shooting numbers were decent, but like if you watch the games, like he could be taken out of, like, he's not really, even though he's a guy who flies off screens and does all this stuff, he's not really a movement shooter in the way that I think people think he is. I think he's more of a spot up guy, and he can attack off some handoffs and stuff like that, but it's nothing that I'm really super concerned about. And like I've already said my piece about Murray. I'm not particularly worried about those guys outside of MPJ. And I'm not particularly worried about him either. I know this sounds wildly disrespectful and whatever, but I just think that the way that they beat you is it's very in front of you. Like a lot of Jokic post-up centric things, and we can talk whether or not AD is going to guard him or if they're going to put a lesser, like, I know they're probably not going to put LeBron on him, but put another defender on him and just send help, or send help early and just get the ball out of his hands and have AD kind of roaming on the weak side doing things like that, or playing him straight up and seeing and living with the results there. Because most of the time I'm a guy who believes in, if you have like a post scorer, like if your offense is like that kind of post centric thing, I think I'm a guy who usually is like, oh, just play them straight up, and if you let them cook, it's still like it's 2 points, and it's going to be a hard 2 points, and you just kind of live with the results. I'm not sure you can do that with Jokic, because once he gets going in the post, he starts extending his range beyond the mid-range to the three-point line, and he's also one of the greatest playoff performers that I've seen in recent memory, up there with Kawhiian levels of stepping his game up when the games actually matter. So I am interested to see whether or not this is a AD on Jokic like kind of situation, or whether or not they kind of play defense on Jokic in the sense where you have to kind of do the work early. You're not really going to push him off of his spots too often, but you try to push him off, maybe do some post fronting and like just things like that, and just try to make him uncomfortable and not get into the middle of the floor, and keep him on either block, even though I don't think he has a weakness on either side. But just kind of make it difficult. Don't let him go middle and get to the little flip shots and all of the things he does. And then off ball, just stay honest. And that's the thing I'm wondering about with the help that they might send. Where do they send it from? Who are they helping off of? Because if you help off Aaron Gordon, then he's liable to cut to the rim. Now, if you can help off of him in a way where and you're still attentive enough to like keep him from cutting behind you, I'll live with an Aaron Gordon corner three any day of the week, or any type of shot that's not a dunk. Like, I'll live with that. And then like KCP's not necessarily, his numbers are what they are, but like I don't consider him like a super knockdown shooter. I'm not worried about that. If it's MPJ, maybe the calculus changes. Jamal Murray, he can shoot, but he's more of a scorer than a shooter. So like whether or not he's in any kind of rhythm probably dictates whether or not that shot's going to go in or not. I'm not particularly worried about helping off of certain guys on Jokic post-ups. But the other option is to play it honest and just if he scores, he scores. If not, hey, you stay. You keep all your off-ball players honest by actually guarding them. And I do think that the Warriors series kind of helped prepare for a Jokic off-ball findery masterclass, if you will, because I don't think there's any tests like chasing Clay and Steph off the screens, off ball, and the Lakers did a really great job of handing people off and just like locking into their off ball attentiveness for the better majority of the last 5 games of the series. And I do think that Denver offers some of that to a lesser extent, but you have to worry more about being back cut and people cutting in front of your face and cutting along the baseline, as opposed to ultimately almost selling out to like stop a Clay or Steph pin down. Like, so I think that the things that the Nuggets can exploit, I think the Lakers will be ready for it in some respects in terms of just being capable enough defenders off ball and having good enough strategies on ball to not, you're probably not even going to slow down Jokic at this point, but making it so he's the only one that's getting like decent like to good looks consistently, and then you just kind of have to force those other guys to kind of make plays, and I don't know if they have enough to do that often. Whereas the Lakers are, I believe, on the other end of the spectrum, where they have at least 5 credible offensive threats, and probably 3 of those guys are going to be on the court at all times. And we already know what their defense is about because they've been locking people down. AD is out here giving us generational shooty hoops on that end. And I think that, like I've been saying, our top end talent, I think, can win in a multitude of ways against a team that I don't think is particularly like that dangerous, like defensively. Well, not dangerous, but I don't think that there's going to be as much resistance as the Lakers have seen in the first 2 series. There's no Gordon is who he is, but there's no JJJ, there's no Draymond Green that we have to go through on the other end that can kind of muck up the works in the paint and stuff. Like, of course, you can pack the paint, crowd the paint, whatever, but the level of attentiveness on rotations and the level of speed at which a JJJ could recover and block shots, I don't think you're going to see that out there on the court for the Nuggets. And I think that the Lakers are going to have several advantages depending on what lineups they put out there. And even if they just try to go straight up with a Vandal, I think still the Lakers still have 4 capable guys who can get relatively decent looks a good majority of the time. Like, who's MPJ going to guard out there? I think you could put him in a lot of ball screen actions. I think you could put Murray in a lot of ball screen actions. KCP is a good defender, but he's not like a guy who's going to shut somebody down, and you can kind of go through him, particularly like if they're doing switching situations, and like KCP gets on to LeBron James in the post. Like, for all KCP's like goodness as a chaser and like being disruptive and things like that, he's more of a guy who, when he gets a switch, he'll like fight sometimes, but he'll roll out the red carpet a lot too. Like, he's not a guy who's going to be about that violence. Now, I haven't watched him as much this year, but like when he was a Laker, that was the thing where he would just get a switch on the post and he would just he just put his hands up like, all right, bro, you got them points. We just gonna go to the next possession. And so the only person I'm really worried about on defense is Aaron Gordon, and that's just if he's not available, able to operate in any capacity as like an off-ball roamer and like a secondary rim protector and stuff like that. I think you can get into certain situations where he could cause problems for you. But then again, he might be guarding AD most of the time, and you can kind of run actions away from that and, just get in where you fit in, find the disadvantage that they have defensively, and just attack that until they stop it. And I think that we can see a lot of that this series. Whether or not they do it is one thing, or they save it like they saved it for Steph in the latter part of Game 5 and 6. Was that Game 5 or was it Game 4? I think it was Game 4 and Game 6 where they really like made a concerted effort to like go at Steph. And I think we could see a lot of the same thing against the Nuggets. That's a long, short way to say, like I said, Lakers in 6. I believe it. I think anybody's picking the Nuggets. I don't know why. I do know why. They have a tremendous offense and stuff like that, but I think this is another situation where a team might have the better basketball player, but the Lakers have the better team, and the quality of depth that is between the two teams, I think, is a little better for the Lakers than people are like to letting on, and I think that comes with somewhat of a anti-Lakers bias of just like ignoring certain people outside of LeBron and AD. People might be tired of the Reeves hype train. People still think that D'Angelo Russell's not a good basketball player, even though he's he's basically won. He was instrumental in Game 1, instrumental in Game 3, solid in Game 6. I think he only had one bad game in that series. Reeves had like a couple, then he came on. Dennis is who he is, for better or worse. I do think that Rui could have a good amount of impact in this series, particularly if they're gonna play defense the way I think they are, which is like, hey, you know what I'm saying, take these mid ranges. we know young Shep out here with the couple dribble pull ups. May have something to say. I don't think they have anybody on their team that can particularly guard him outside of Aaron Gordon. Maybe Jeff Green and his very oldness can provide some resistance. I highly doubt it. But I do think that Rui is going to provide a level of physicality and just size and athleticism before we even get to the skill aspects of his game that are going to play a part in this series at some point. I'm assuming Lonnie is going to still be the guy in the rotation, even though I think we can interchange with maybe a Brown or I don't want to say a Beasley, but like the level of shooter that they have on this team, the level of attackers they have on this team are more conducive to a Troy Brown if he were to like get minutes in this series. Perhaps if you want to make a defense for offense substitution where we don't think we need Lonnie as much because we have advantages elsewhere and we kind of just want to shore up a little bit more of the defense, even though Troy hasn't shown to be a consistent defender all the time. I think that the Nuggets are more of a matchup for him if he were to get minutes. Maybe Beasley has some revenge arc in him because he was a former Nugget. He might show up and hit 18,000 threes. You never know. But I think it's probably going to be Lonnie. And I think that his ability to attack the rim and hit spot-up shots and just be a generally good athlete out there could provide beneficial for the Lakers as well. Like, I think there are many avenues for the Lakers to either win games on the margins or outright just win them just by being a better basketball team. I think the Lakers are the better basketball team, despite whatever the records are and things like that. I just think that although the Nuggets are very complimentary, I think that the Lakers are complimentary and they can exceed just the complementariness of their games. I think that they can be complementary and play well together, but if we need one or two guys to really elevate and step up, or three, and I'm not talking about like the Jokic and Murray or MPJ can step up and do that, but I'm saying they probably going to need that every night from those guys, whereas you can kind of, there could be 5 to 6 guys who could have a say in how a particular game pans out, and I don't think the Nuggets quite go that far in their depth rankings. So that's a long way to say Lakers in 6. I do want to say in memoriam to my guy, Julius Randles. I said Randles. Another stinker of a postseason. My dog, you know what I'm saying? As a known baby Lakers supporter, it hurt my heart that man was not cooking. Jalen Brunson was absolutely cooking, though. That brother was on another type of time for the entire time. I don't know what's wrong with that with Andrew Caldwell Jr. He is going crazy. But I think we've seen for 2 postseasons now. Like, this is not a thing where it's a lights or too bright moment. Just like I had the conversation about D'Lo, and this is not the reason he's struggling in the playoffs. I think the playoffs are a bad basketball environment for Julius Randle, and that's not something you want to hear anybody say about like a guy making $100 million. But the things that he is susceptible to are things that the playoff basketball kind of brings to the forefront, which is inconsistent jump shooting and the level and speed and intensity you play the game with. His jumper is not reliable just because the form he shoots with, like, he's just never going to be a reliable jump shooter. He's going to be able to make shots and things like that, but it's going to be more rhythm than just like pure knockdown shootery. And then in the speed and aggression standpoint, I'm not saying that he's not playing with speed or playing aggressive. I think that the way that he is ultimately successful in most situations is by using his speed and strength advantage and kind of going through people as opposed to methodically going to spots and going around people. And I think that in the playoff environment, that's a lot more difficult to be successful with because there's a lot more contact allowed. The paint is not what it is in the regular season, as we've seen by a lot of these just horrible basketball scores we've been seeing. And it's just not an environment that he can necessarily thrive in, particularly with the kind of offense that the Knicks play. They didn't really change anything from the regular season that I saw significantly to kind of free up guys. And for all Jalen Brunson's brilliance as a scorer and things like that, he's still not a natural play creator. He can create for others and things like that, but he's not going to be a guy who's going to kind of warp the court with his passing and his scoring. He's going to mostly do a lot of his damage getting those buckets, and then the playmaking is just like a function of just him having the ball and like getting certain spots and making plays in certain ways, but not necessarily being a threat to spray it all over the court and kind of make it happen that way. So the Knicks got some decisions to make. I do think that the big meow is a very realistic option, particularly with what Minnesota is looking like. I think that Minnesota would be absolutely on goofball time to do it for anything that the Knicks have, and like I could be talking to a Randall's Rudy and Ant situation, but I think you're going to be spinning your wheels at that point. But I think that the Wolves are going to be spinning their wheels just in general until they find another probably high-end wing kind of guy to put next to Ant. And I'm not saying that Jaden McDaniels is not like a hooper or anything like that, but I think in order for a team that's led by Anthony Edwards to be successful, you need somebody that's a capable ball handler who makes other people better and can take some of the driving burden off of Ant, because he will be if he's the only guy that can get to the rim on your offense is not going to run as efficiently as it could, because he's not a good off the dribble passer. And until he becomes one, or you get somebody that can kind of interchange that role with him, you're going to be kind of stuck in certain respects. And, Randall can provide some of that actually, but like we've seen what Randall is in the postseason. So like, I wouldn't necessarily bank on that being something that you could count on. But I do think they could do some regular season shenanigans and stuff like that. But you lose a whole lot of shooting, and you lose a guaranteed bucket in most situations. So like just getting through the regular season might be a little more difficult for like a Rudy Gobert, Ant, and Randall trio. You know what I'm saying? Even though Randall's largely reliable, he doesn't miss games and all this other stuff. I think that the dynamics of your team would look a little different. Not would, but they're definitely going to look different. But I think that you're trading like perceived success elsewhere at the expense of your regular season, because no matter how much people don't like the regular season stuff, you need guys who can win in the regular season, and Randall has shown that he can over the course of these past 2 out of the last 3 years, and Cat, when he has adequate help, has been, successful at least twice. But you can't undersell the importance of just getting to the dance in the first place. And I'm not sure that the Wolves will be all the way, you wouldn't be able to pencil them into the playoffs, I think. Whereas I think you probably still would if Cat is still on the team. I don't think I got too much of anything else. Nobody was really in here asking questions. Shout out to 91 for showing up, saying what's up. You know what I'm saying? My back is cooked. I just did this while my food was digested. And I just wanted to get on record saying Lakers in 6. I'm going to say it again before. I haven't talked about the Heat and the Celtics. I do think that they are stylistically similar in a lot of ways. This is probably going to be an Al Horford versus Kevin Love series. and one of those guys are probably going to swing some games. I am not looking forward to watching Kyle Lowry and Marcus Smart gesticulate or gyrate or whatever the word you want to use on the court in hopes of whistles and putting other people in danger in certain respects by just playing some goofy basketball of the flopping variety, even though they're both the ultimate competitors. You know what I'm saying? They just play nasty basketball, and I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I'm an aesthetics guy when I watch my shooty hoops, and they don't be aesthetic enough for me. You know what I'm saying? Kyle Lowry might be aesthetic for some people that's, you know what I'm saying, looking for the yeeks or whatever. Maybe a Jack Harlow, you know what I'm saying? He might be like, oh, yeah, I like watching that Kyle Lowry basketball, but Kyle Lowry's not on my team. I don't want to see him play too much basketball. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. You can have whatever feelings you want to, and that extends to Marcus Smart as well. Just, but they're proven winners, so it works. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to watch it. So I will be watching the series, though. Big James Butler hours. We're going to see like how those matchups go on the wing. Because for all of Tatum's greatness, for all of Jalen's greatness, we do see that you can have a lot of lulls depending on those guys to be your primary drivers of offense. They've supplemented it, of course, with some Brogdon and Derek White and like guys who can also create for themselves and stuff like that. So you're not playing tween, take turns ball for the whole time. Marcus Smart has provided some gap filling and things like that. But I do think that it's going to be more of a dogfight for the Heat than the last series was, and I do think that the Celtics are going to have a few problems, but I do think ultimately that they may be the better team just because Miami has had injuries and but you can't discount the James Butler factor. I call him James. I don't think his name is James, but he's James Butler in this household. As the playoffs go along, Jimmy Butler will give you some tremendous performances, but like at a certain point he plays a lot. He plays very hard, and you can see in certain series where he'll just not have good games. And like I don't mean like 20 points on 7 for 20 shooting. I mean like he got like 11 points and he barely you like Jimmy Butler, he on the court like, but I think he's gotten better at managing that over the course of the years, and I think that the Heat have found ways to kind of survive those lulls, for lack of a better term. They have gotten kind of lucky with injuries in the first series, and then like the Knicks, I don't think the Knicks were as good as people thought they were, just in general. So they've had a decent draw up to this point, and I think the Celtics present some of the things that that could provide the Heat with some success just based off of how they play. Oh boy, I thought that was a question. It said, "What does it matter, bro?" I thought that was a question, big dog. I'm like, what you mean? Lakers in 5. We had a personnel to press on the Nuggets. We point. Yeah, I said Lakers in 6, but like I thought in the last series, my 6 is just me respecting the opponent. You know what I'm saying? Just like I think, and they have home court advantage, so I think like they can win 2 games on their home court. You know what I mean? And like it becomes Lakers in 6 that way. If the Lakers were the home team, I would probably say Lakers in 5. But that's my personal opinion. I don't think that the Nuggets outside of Jokic have any advantages. I just don't. I don't think Jamal Murray is that much of a better player, if at all, than D'Angelo Russell. I think he's benefited from playing with Jokic forever. AD is clearing Gordon. LeBron's clearing Gordon. Reeves is not clearing Murray, but he's not that far off. And, like, that's just the top of the roster. I think our role players are better. I think they are more versatile in the level of things they can do on offense. I think that the Nuggets have a lot of plug-and-play guys, which in the sense that they do maybe one thing really well, and then the other things they kind of have to figure it out, and they need Jokic to kind of hold their hands through certain aspects of the basketball game. And I said that if Jokic goes out, what do they do? But that also applies to the Lakers and AD. But I think that the Lakers are better able to survive a situation in which AD is not on the court, as opposed to if Jokic is not on the court for the Nuggets. I don't think that Bruce Brown at point guard is going to work too crazy in a long series versus the Lakers defense. Now, you can get away with that in the regular season, where Bruce Brown comes in, he has a game, and it's like, oh, Bruce Brown out here hooping, but like he ain't seeing schemes out there. So like, you know what I'm saying? People like, oh, Bruce Brown, we'll let him get that 3-on-2, that 4-on-3. That's, you know what I'm saying? We're just gonna try to survive these 9 Jokic minutes, and we just gonna, you know, but it's not gonna be the same thing. In the in the playoffs, I don't think. They played Minnesota, which I didn't consider a serious basketball team. Once they made those changes that they made, you know what I'm saying? And then who else did they play? The Suns. The Suns were extremely top heavy, and they kind of just benefited off the fact that KD and Booker were playing take turns ball. Aiton's not particularly a guy that you worry about. CP3's elbow, wrist, foot fell off. What was his groin? He had another groin injury. Like, I'm not worried about it. And so, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that I think, like I said before, I don't think that they faced any like real adversity yet in these playoffs. And I'm interested to see how Jokic responds because he's kind of volatile. Like, so, and maybe he responds with grace and he plays through everything. He's not getting goofy take fouls in transition. He's not running into people. He's not twisting people's arms on rebounds. Like, Jokic does all that stuff. He just gets good press. Like, Jokic is not a clean player, bro. Like, I used to notice it a lot when he would play Karl Anthony Towns. He would be in there chicken winging, like, and just grabbing like his elbows and like doing all kind of crazy stuff. But people ain't gonna talk about it. He almost paralyzed somebody last year, and nobody talks about it ever, bro. Like, as a person who has spine and neck injuries or just dysfunction, because I can't trace it back to a specific injury. Like, he did a number on Morris. Was it Marcus? It was Marcus, I believe. Or was it Markeith? I don't remember which Morris 20 was, but he had that dude down bad. Like, Aaron Baines almost died from a similar thing. Now, I'm not saying he should have been persecuted or anything like that or prosecuted for any. He should have probably got a little more time off than he got. And then people are like, oh, more started it. But, like, come on, bro. Like, he went full speed into somebody's head, neck, spine area. Like, that's crazy. And people just like, oh, Jokic competing. Like, nah, bro. If that was somebody else, bro, he would have got a little bit longer of a situation for him. But I'm the ultimate Jokic respecter. I've said that he's one of the best playoff performers I've seen. And the whole MVP Embiid thing, like, I wasn't taking part in those conversations because I can't watch Embiid play basketball for too long because he's too big to do the antics that he does. And it's part of the reason why they're not successful in the playoffs, even though he gets hurt a lot, but he relies on whistles entirely too much for somebody of his skill set and size. And we see it happen every year where they flame out because the whistles aren't whistling the way they need to. And then he goes on the podium like, I need to figure out a way to get better. It's like, just play the game, bro. Like, nobody can stop you if you play basketball like a basketball player and not like you in a drama class or something. Like, stop doing that. Just go out there and hoop. Like, and of course, maybe some of that reliance is that he has lower body injuries all the time and he kind of needs to preserve himself in certain ways. I understand that. But until you get out of that mode of playing basketball like that, I don't see how you gonna just be out here winning like that. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me. That's a whole list. If you look at the top 10 players in the series, we have more. Jokic, number one. True. AD, Bron, Murray probably, right? Like, when it gets to Murray, the Murray MPJ D'Lo triumvirate, it gets real shaky. And then after that, like, it's Lakers. It's all Lakers after that. Maybe like KCP, whatever. Like, he's a good basketball player, but he's not somebody that's going to swing a series outside the confines of a basketball game. Whereas, like I said, I think the Lakers have more people who can transcend the actual goings on of a particular game or two. And I think that's what's going to put them over the top. I do think probably MPJ is 6, just because, like, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I'm a guy who respects MPJ's talent, but I'm not like, oh, MPJ is somebody I'm like super afraid of. Like, even though I say he was the X factor in the series, I think that he's still too limited off the dribble, and he's like, just he ain't out there defending. He ain't out there doing a lot, but he's so generationally good at like getting those buckets off of other people's creation that like you have to worry about him. But like, if you talking about best player in the series, like, he has to be able to like take over games consistently. And I don't know if he is going to be doing that. He might, you know, he might find what the real shooting hoopsman within him is. You know what I'm saying? And it becomes a whole nother thing. But I'm much more confident in the Lakers, quote unquote, bottom part of the whatever roster or whatever. I think Dennis is probably in the Bamba spot. I think that if Bamba plays, he could have some utility, particularly on offense as like a popper, even though I don't particularly think he's like super great at it or anything. I do think that the defensive issues that Bamba has are going to be less exposed in this series because I don't trust Denver to be, one, a high volume pick and roll team, and two, I don't trust Murray to be a guy who can kind of punish Bamba in the ways that he would be punished regularly. And then after that, I don't see who they have to really like punish Bamba's just lack of ability to contain anything like as a pick and roll defender in any like serious way. And I think he provides some rim protection that the Lakers could use, and just having a big body out there. Maybe Tristan gets a run, even though he's old. I don't know if you want him just out there guarding Jokic. But if you need somebody that's just going to spell somebody for like 3 minutes, why not throw Tristan out there? I don't think Winion should play too much, if any. Just, you know what I'm saying? Williams, I like Winion as a basketball player, but he just ain't got enough in the back pocket to even really be considered an option, I don't think, this series, because I think that they're going to run their main guys for a majority. By a majority, I mean more than 36 minutes of the time out there. So, like, maybe you can get a Winion stretch, but I doubt it. But, yeah, I think the Lakers, just once again, same with the Warriors series. I think this is very analogous to the type of talent you see going down the roster in terms of what the ancillary guys can do outside of the Steph and Clay or Jokic ecosystem, which I think is very limited, as opposed to outside of the AD and Bron. We have multiple guys who can have tremendous impacts on offense, and I think that's going to carry today. I think the Lakers' defense is going to be at a baseline good enough level to kind of stop what the Nuggets are doing more often than not. Once it becomes apparent that the rest of the supporting cast is not going to transcend the circumstances too often. Now, there might be a Bruce Brown game here or there, not Bruce Brown game, a Bruce Brown stretch, or maybe Aaron Gordon is out here getting all the cuts in the world, dunking on people, and he finds his rhythm in transition and all this other stuff. That's to be expected, but I think that the threat of it is much less than we've dealt with in the previous 2 rounds. I've seen some comments of AD being Jokic. I've seen some comments on AD being Jokic take away his impact as a help side run. What do you think of the 2 big look? I think it could be useful. If not, what would you count? I think you could consider the 2 big look. I was talking about this earlier, just in general. Like, for me personally, I know you don't want Jokic to kind of get his in that way, but if I'm seeing a post-centric situation, I'm going to see how much you can like really cook me before I make any adjustments. Now, depending on whether or not AD guards Jokic or not, I don't know if I would start off that way, but maybe, I don't know. I'm still trying to, because I don't know who the secondary defender is you put on Jokic, and then you just send help immediately. Like, I'm trying to figure out who that guy is. Like, is it Rui? Like, I don't think it's Vando for any, like, extended period of time. So, like, I think it might have to be an AD on Jokic, like, series. But I'm not entirely sure or married to that idea. But in any respect, I'm going to see, first of all, how Jokic is cooking before I make any, like, wholesale adjustments to what my coverage is. So if that's AD first, and then if he's getting AD into foul trouble or something, then we got to figure that out. But I'm more worried about the off-ball situation, particularly Gordon along the baseline. I think that whatever you do, you have to be locked into your off-ball situation before you worry about Jokic and whether or not he's getting buckets on you, because I think he's a little more dangerous in the pass-out situation. Now, the numbers may not reflect that, but I think, like, over the course of a series, if you're able to kind of shut off the ancillary off-ball stuff, like, because I'm not particularly worried about, like, a KCP catching a one pass away, like, post pass. Like, I'm not, take it. I don't care. Like, MPJ is a little more worrisome in situations where he could probably get, you know what I'm saying, in the gaps and stuff like that. But I'm playing it straight up. If you need a 2 big look after that, I don't know if it's Bamba. Like, I don't know who it's going to be because we don't know when it's going to be available. I just kind of talked about that. But is that a donation? Brother and or sister. Appreciate it. First donation ever on this channel. You know what I'm saying? One day, I might get to the $100 threshold for YouTube. They like, bro, we ain't giving you your money until you get a certain amount of paper around here. But I do appreciate that. But going back to the 2 big look, I'm just going. I'm in wait and see mode. I'm not going to it any particular. Like I think we start AD. Like we try. Well, I think we try whoever a non-LeBron defender is first. That's why I think Vandal still has some utility because he's like the only other guy I can think of that would be able to like you can think of maybe a Rui, like try to have him survive just the initial push Jokic as far as you can, and once he catches it, send help on the first dribble or front to post. Like, there's a lot of ways you can go about doing this. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think it's going to be more of a Jokic AD situation, and I think AD can manage his fouls or just his defense in a way where he's not going to be in foul trouble too often. But we never know what kind of whistle people get, particularly on their home floor. But again, that goes to the other end as well. Um, I don't know because the two big lineup. I think that the Lakers have a lot of advantages offensively if they don't kind of muck up their spacing like that. So I don't know because like if this was just a defensive conversation, I'd be like, yeah, maybe you could try it. But I do want to see how AD just lives in those waters first before I commit to anything like that. I'm on the wrong computer again. Let me because I saw some D-Lo question. Let me see. What's up? Is your name James or Jamesy? No. But you got any thoughts on how D-Lo can get to the spots better in pick and rolls this series compared to last series? Feel like he's not shooting his floater all going. Well, I think that was just a function of a lot of that was the vandal of it all in that particular matchup in the Draymond Green of it all. I do think that we're going to probably see way more drop coverage, like true drop coverage this series, in which like I think they're going to kind of like want him to operate in those areas anyway. Like perhaps like what was it, game 1 against Golden State? I think that the defense that he's going to see is going to be more akin to that. I do think that they just abandon like the double drag stuff a lot, which I don't understand. Well, I kind of understand it because like I said, the vandal of it all is kind of like, what's the point of running it when the paint's just going to be clogged and you can kind of just ignore certain things? But I think that this is probably the best defensive matchup he's going to face in this playoffs in terms of him getting his looks off in the pick and roll. I think that him and AD haven't really found that chemistry. I think that AD prefers somebody who comes off screens a little bit harder. That's why he plays a little, and him and Austin and him and Dennis are more natural in the lob catching aspect of it. D'Lo is more of a wait and see guy, and that's kind of a problem when people are packing the paint. I'm not saying it's a problem, but like it's a thing where it looks a little clunkier than it is. That's why AD was catching a lot of shots, catching a lot of balls at the free throw line, and kind of having to make decisions from there. But I think that the the overall talent on the perimeter is not going to be enough to stop D'Lo in the ways that the other teams had, because they had a Wiggins or a GP2 that could kind of trail him well enough, going through screens, and then they could pack the paint with a JJJ or because they had Bane who could guard him relatively well with a good amount of strength. They had what's his face, Dylan Brooks, who could kind of contest and like get through screens and stuff like that. I don't see KCP, for all of his like annoyingness as a basketball player, he's not particularly physical in my personal opinion. He's more of a speed and hands guy as opposed to a guy who's gonna get over screens and kind of disrupt where you have to go. And he's not. I think him and D'Lo are basically the same size. Like I think that D'Lo's going to be able to impose his will physically a little more in this series than he has in series previously, and I think that's going to kind of supersede any like scheme. Because like I said, I think Jokic is they're gonna play more like drop. You know what I'm saying? If you really want to get spicy with it, I've been dying for the D'Lo and LeBron pick and roll forever. I think there's different ways you can get looks as in just straight pick and roll situations in this series than in previous series, just by virtue of the personnel Denver has on the floor. I don't think there has to be anything too fancy. I think you get D'Lo in a little more handoff, like what is it? What they call it, Chicago, whatever you want to call it. But more handoffs, and if you do want to set screens, I say set them higher out, personally, I think they should look into that. You know what I'm saying? Because it helps D'Lo, one, get ahead of steam, and two, we see with Jokic how far out in the waters he really wants to come. I think this is going to be a big pull-up 3 series for the Lakers, and D'Lo in particular. Austin, I don't really trust him as much as an off-the-dribble shooter yet, but I think that we're going to see a little more offensive percolation from D'Lo, or at least an attempt to do so. Whether or not he makes the shots is up to him, but like I think it's going to be more of a thing. He's just pocket passing AD in the big and the angle to remember he's really taking the floater. I don't know. When D'Lo's not shooting a floater, I don't know if it's a conscious decision or a stylistic choice that the team has made, because I personally think that, like I've talked about it forever, he gets his rhythm in the mid-range, and that's the jumper or the floater. When he's attacking, it's a mixed bag, because when he misses the layups when he's attacking, like it becomes like a it's like I think you should probably shoot a little earlier than going all the way to the rim. But I do like that he's added that little push dribble to his game, where before he would kind of like shoot floaters outside of floater range, he would be like a step too early, as opposed to now where he kind of realized that instead of doing like the James Harden rip through like flip up thing, he can dribble the ball just as low, and people are not gonna like really take it that often, and you can still get the same kind of hand contact. And then once you get the ball, after you've pushed it a little further, you're a little closer to the rim, and that's why his finishing has been better this year. And I think that those avenues will be available in certain respects. I'm worried about the Aaron Gordon of it all, depending on who he's guarding and whether or not he can kind of roam and kind of cut some of that stuff off. But I do think that we're going to see a little more D'Lo pick and roll and or handoff. Bring the double drag out as much as you can, in my personal opinion, and just see what you get from there. I didn't even read the donation message. Respect. Man, where did all these questions come from? Respected basketball, it's hard to find people that actually break down nuance to the growth channel. Like I said, appreciate it. I'm here to talk about shooty hoops. If I had to say what kind of shooty hoop guy I am, I'm more of a skills knower than like a diagram teller. Like I'm not giving you super X's and O's and all that stuff. Just because, one, like I know what actions look like and what they are, but like it's too many names out here these days. I ain't really kept up on the literature. Like I seen people talking about Gut Chicago last week. I'm like, what are you talking about? What's gut what? But I'm a guy who I noticed I can tell you like what a good basketball player looks like from a skills perspective, and a move, like I'm more of a movement pattern noticer, and like, you know, just that kind of thing. As if like I'm getting more holistic in my, you know what I'm saying, my shooty hoops knowledge. I do know what's going on out there, but like I can't tell you what certain things are just because I don't be paying attention to the lexicon these days, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciate it, man. Oh man, I'm so mad that my Wolves built this Laker team. Hey man, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if Connolly was a double agent. I doubt it. I think that they just are broke for lack of a better. I think they were moving like a broke boy team would move for the most part. Of course, Conley's fit is whatever, but like people were grading the Conley trade like keeping D'Lo wasn't an option, and he had like outperformed any like expectations that people probably realistically had, given the fact that you thought Cat was going to be there. But like, just like, oh, we traded him, we got Conley's not a better player than D'Lo, bro, and I don't think he fits better in the context of the Timberwolves either. Like we saw that, like I was telling people, like all the leadership in the world is fine, and like all of that stuff is cool, but you gotta be able to make people, like, if you can't just talk and then just be the same guy on the court all the time. Like it's only gonna go so far. You got to be able to hoop it too, like you know what I'm saying. And that's kind of where Conley's ceiling has always been. Like he can be the professional and he can be all this other stuff, but he's not gonna exceed a certain level of production in situations where you really need it. Whereas opposed to like D'Lo might not give you all of the steadiness, even though I think his volatility is wildly overblown. He's not going to give you all of the steadiness of a Mike Conley 36-year-old leader, but he's going to be able to transcend circumstances in moments more often than a Mike Conley would, or a lot of people would. And that's extremely valuable just on a basketball team. And like I think people discount like that part of it. It's swung 2 series for the Lakers What was it? Game 4 in round one. Game 1 in the most recent series. They don't win that game without that shot that D'Lo made, or just his general third quarter. Like he came out in the third quarter, and he was keeping them even with the Warriors until they finally broke away. Like Mike Conley's not doing that. Like you need guys like that on your team, and like you can't rely on Ant to do that as often as like what I'm saying you would require him to as a decision maker or just a guy like that. So they I think that they think they are better situated for the long haul. I don't personally think so. And I think some decisions are going to have to be made. People are talking about trading Cat. I think you could trick somebody into taking Rudy. Personally, I think you could trick a team to do that. And people might be a little wary of Cat's Supermax because he got a lot of money over a good amount of years still coming. I don't have a problem with Karl-Anthony Towns as a basketball player. I'll take him on my team as a guy who's not being relied to be like a leader of your basketball team, but like as a pure basketball talent, I'm taking him every time. But I'm very interested to see what the Wolves do. The Wolves didn't really build this team too crazy. They gave him D'Lo, but like Vando, he be hooping. You know what I'm saying? 2 games, he'll give you 2, and then like Malik is in the shadow realm. So like you ain't got to feel too bad about it. But like I see where you're coming from. Lakers versus Boston. That's where I'm at with it. I lost respect for Joel Embiid. Yeah, man. Like, but this has been my problem with him just in general the entire time. Like, I'm a Joel Embiid respecter, like on the talent level, but like he plays basketball in a way that I just can't get with all the time. And it's particularly annoying when it's against a team that you root for. And like that was kind of where the whole basis of that diatribe came from. But it's just like, just play the game the right way, bro. Like, and I'm not saying there's a wrong way to play basketball, but like the game is going to reward you if you play like you're actually trying to play basketball as opposed to like trying to trick the refs the whole time. Like I don't know what you're doing. But the game is easier than ever for you to just play basketball. Like as an offensive player, like, and I don't see the reason to resort to all these tricks. Of course, you're gonna get fouled anyway. You're one of the biggest human beings on the planet. Like, just play the right way. And then that's not even getting into the situation with him potentially hurting people by the way he falls. Part of the reason he stepped on Grant Williams' face because he was pirouetting around just like way more than like the level of contact justified. And like that's the kind of thing that I don't like. You know what I'm saying? Just that's why I talk about Lowry a lot and like those kind of guys who kind of I think. Flopping is kind of dangerous in certain respects, in certain aspects. When it becomes like full body flopping, if you want to do some head snapping, some head jerking, that's fine. But when you get to like falling all over the court and rolling around, doing all this stuff, I can't I don't like it. I don't like watching it. And I think it's a little more dangerous than people like to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, Bane's tough, man. Worry about the click guys with D'Lo too, because D'Lo getting cut off with some of these screens. I feel like he's got a time limit, dribble limit to work with on the Lakers. I just think that, like, the GP2 thing instance, for example, I didn't think that GP2 was like a problem for him physically. I think that D'Lo sometimes he's a go with the flow kind of guy. He plays within the flow of the game, like whether or not it's a positive or a negative. So if a team is denying him a certain way, he's not gonna like force the issue to try to go get the ball, particularly if he believes in the other guys on the court. So like he stood in the corner for the large majority of game 4 or whatever game 5. The beginning of game 5, he was just parked in the corner chilling. Like, of course he had a little bit of foul trouble and that was what it was. But like he wasn't really, LeBron wasn't passing the ball on spot ups. Like he was just chilling. You know what I'm saying? And then like the second half came around and he started getting to like once I saw that first post up turnaround on GP2, I'm like, okay, like Peyton can't guard him. Like the thing about D'Lo is he's not bothered as much with physical aggression, like from like an on ball perspective. Like he'll find ways to get around that. But if a guy is like has the physicality and can do it off ball, D'Lo will just like let that happen sometimes, and like that's part of the reason like he's not like a supermax player or anything like that. Like he will just let things happen to him sometimes, or he'll give people the ball and just like I'm over here, you know what I'm saying? Not in the way where he like gives up or anything, but like he's not going to force the issue, and that's more of the problem than like people being able to fully take him out of something, because like I think he's accepted the third role of it all, and he's just like, I'll get my shots when they come, and if they're denying me a certain way, we'll see what Austin has, we'll see what LeBron has, we'll see what AD has, and then like go from there. But like when the chips are down, I'm not worried about like him like finding offense like we saw in several of the games so far. Like when it's time to apply pressure, I think he will, and if he sees like opportune times to do it, he will. He's just a little more selective than he was in the past, because he doesn't have to like force the issue as much. And sometimes that just leads to a 1 for 10 night like we saw. Like I knew that game, I knew that he wasn't about to be cooking just by how that first corner three was looking. His jumper just didn't look good. That was more, I think that was more of the problem than like Gary Payton doing whatever he was doing. I think that if he wants the ball, he can go get the ball and he can make something happen, but it's more of a mental thing with him as opposed to what the other team is doing to him. Let's see. This man is not reading comments. I'll be talking a while, and like I'm not used to like the influx of comments I got, and it doesn't come to my OBS for some reason, so I got to read it in real time on the thing. But like you got to scroll, and I'm not near the computer to do that. But I'm trying, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying. Get Jokic at every single screen for every guard. All of them will get in rhythm. I mean, Denver has ways to mitigate Jokic's slowness, for lack of a better term. But I think that like that's the whole thing with whether or not you start Vandal or you start Dennis. I think if there are 5 people out there, if there's Dennis, AD, D'Lo, LeBron, and Reeves, you got 4 guys who can credibly run pick and roll. I'm not going to say you can run it with AD any specific way, but I do think you can run some big screens with AD and as AD as the ball handler, LeBron as the screener, probably more from the mid post area as opposed to like the top of the key. But like just getting AD ahead of steam, and whether or not he's going out of Jokic or Aaron Gordon could cause problems for the for the Nuggets in certain respects. Like I think that if you have all of these, every guard can have an advantage against Jokic, and I think that it's not just against Jokic. I think Murray's in trouble. Depending on who's guarding him in screen roll action. I mean, who he's guarding in screen roll action. I think MPJ would be in trouble in a lot of screen roll action. I think that you can kind of play whoever offense on a multitude of dudes in their lineups. And that's part of the reason I think that I'm not particularly worried about this, like other people seem to be, because I think that the Lakers just have too much interchangeability in the most important play in the game to like, you know what I'm saying, not find offense somewhere. And then I think the defense will be able to take care of itself in most respects, particularly after surviving a John Morant and Clay and Steph type of thing. Of course, Jokic is a different animal in a different way, but I think that a post-up centric, short roll centric kind of offensive situation is a little more easily guarded than like a guy who can just zoom through your defense like just from the top of the key and just cause all kinds of havoc. And then just the very super sellout nature of guarding the Clay and the Steph. Like I think that Jokic presents a different problem for them, but I think that the team as a whole is not as problematic in my personal opinion. But I might be tripping on that because once again, I might be ignoring the Murray of it all, but I'm just not like a guy who's too concerned about Jamal Murray until he shows me that I need to be concerned about it. And then even that could tip the scales in where he becomes just super gunner man. Like the thing, that's why I didn't worry about Ja. I'm not worried about high level on ball offensive creators who don't pass well. I'm not who don't pass well or who don't shoot off the dribble well. I'm not worried about those guys too often. That's why I'm not like, I don't rate certain guys. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? People are like, oh, the Cavs and Donovan. I'm like, bro, he don't pass well enough for me to be super concerned about him. Like, it's just, it is what it is. And like, I think that extends to Jamal Murray as well. Bamba being available unlocks Rui as a starter. Rui in the starting lineup feels like a low-key death lineup. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. It depends on if Rui is hitting the shots, though. Because I do see a world in which, like, they can kind of I wouldn't ignore him in like to the extremes that you ignore Vando, of course. But like if for instance if Rui starts cooking, I think that their personnel would be able to kind of guard him a little easier if it comes to that in terms of being able to cut him off in certain respects from getting his offense off. Now, of course, you're not going to devote a lot of resources to him or anything like that. But if Rui were to like get in a certain kind of rhythm or something like that, I think that over the course of the series, it might not be a thing that you would want to like rely on too often. I think that Rui's advantages are going to be physical in those lineups as well. Like I think he's going to provide a level of athleticism that a guy like MPJ probably can't handle. A level of strength, particularly with his bad back and stuff like that. I think there are a lot of rebounds to be had in this series, particularly because the Lakers don't rebound particularly well, and I think Rui could provide some of that given his kind of change in the way he's approached the game over the past couple months. So I think it would be that, and then the scoring, and then you can see what he has in other situations as well. But I think that could be best served off the bench, though. My whole thing is with any lineup changes, I'm a guy who's of the opinion that you just start your starters, whether it be nominal or not, and then if you find lineups over the course of the series, you go to those either earlier in the game or at times in the game where you're going to have an advantage if Jokic is on his way out or something like that, as opposed to like making it a wholesale thing. Like, for instance, like teams don't often run, I'm not going to say often, but a lot of teams don't run their best lineups as their starting lineup. You know what I mean? Like we never saw the Warriors run Draymond at the center lineups as their main lineups. So I think that keeping your advantages, not gonna say close to the best, but like you don't want to run. I'm of the opinion you don't want to run out your advantages. You don't want to run them into the ground because it gives the team an ability to kind of see certain things that they can improve upon. Of course, there's film and stuff, and you can watch it and figure it out that way. But I think less could be more in this particular series because I don't think that the ancillary talent of the Nuggets is going to punish a deficiency in the lineup the way that we just saw in the last series, personally. But I could be wrong about that. Vandal being able to play the press corner role with the run behind him is when he's at his best. Combine that with Mo being able to space the floor and mitigate his lack of the Mo spacer thing is something that I see, like, in theory. Like, I don't remember what his shooting numbers were. I think they were good. But, like, he hasn't played in a while. And, like, playoff level basketball is something that he hasn't really had any experience with. And, he's not the quickest release guy. I don't think they're going to close out hard on him if he gets in pick and pop situations and stuff like that. So I don't think that's anything to like really worry about. But I'm in wait and see mode with Mo, just because also he's coming off a high ankle sprain, and a high ankle sprain cooks everybody. So like there's like I get the theoretical Mo of it all, but I am interested to see one, if he's even ready for this level of like intensity just mentally, because like a part of Mo's problem is he's a spacey guy. Like he's a hilarious guy and stuff like that. But like we got to see how locked in he is. But at the very least, I do trust him to protect the rim, if nothing else. Like I trust him to be there and be big and use that wingspan and that standing reach and just kind of be out there if he is out there. Like I said earlier, I don't think that Denver has enough like off the dribble pick and roll juice, if you will, to like kind of punish the coverages that he's bad at, which is like anything that's anything near the free throw line. Like that brother's feet is not where they need to be a lot of the time. His movement isn't like conducive to being a consistent ball screen guarder for any extended periods of time. But like I said, I don't think they have anybody outside of Murray, and I'm not really worried about Murray that much either. Oh, this is off the bench? Oh, my bad. My point is pushing Vando to the bench can't happen unless you mitigate his lack of offense. Maybe? Like, I see what you're saying. But, because I don't know what the Nuggets are going to do, like, from a lineup standpoint, like is Jokic still out there? Like, what is the bench to bench situation like? Because I think you can absolutely survive like a Bron Rui Vandal situation if it comes to it, provided that like Reeves is the other guard and maybe D'Lo is the other guard, where you still get a requisite amount of offense. Because the problem with the bench lineups, in my opinion, over the course of like these series, like of course like Vandal and Bron have been tethered together a lot, pretty much the entire time Vandal has been here, except when LeBron was hurt. So I think that LeBron provides cover in Vandal in a multitude of ways on the offensive end as well, because even though they don't use Vandal as a screener as much as I would like them to, for some reason, I don't know why. Like Vandal is decent enough at it as opposed to just passing him the ball in the corner and or in late clock situations. But I think that Vandal and Rui and LeBron kind of have an interchangeability, not necessarily offensively, but in areas that they can be on the floor, and like you can kind of interchange them in certain ways to where like Rui's a screener and Vandal could be either in the corner. Maybe you can get some short, some dunker spot situation action going. Like I think there's ways that you can involve Vandal offensively that's just not him standing in the corner. I think the standing of the corner of it in the AD lineups is just because you want AD to be your screener all the time. And then it becomes a different conversation when there's different personnel on the floor. But I do think that like if LeBron's off ball and he's a diver, then you can have Vandal diving off with some diver action. Like there's ways you can get Vandal to be useful. But like when you get to the Denver backup of it all, like I don't like they can ignore Vandal all they want to, but like they still got to deal with the other four guys on the court, sans Jokic. Like they still have a lot of problems in those situations. I keep going down to the wrong thing. uh, it's been 76 minutes. I don't know if I got anything left in me. You know what I'm saying? It's say one watching now, so maybe everybody is peaced out. You know what I'm saying? But I did not expect to be on here this long. I appreciate everybody for showing up. What does it matter, bruh? Whatever. I was gonna ask you your name, but you probably say, "What does it matter, bruh?" Really appreciate the donation. You know what I'm saying? The first ever on Anthony, previously known as Amps Gaming and Rap Commentaries. Appreciate that. I will try to be back on here. My back is really cooked. That's why I didn't think I was gonna be here on here that long. Lakers is 6 before I go. You know what I'm saying? I think Celtics take the other series. I don't know. I'm not going to give you a game count because I'm not really locked into the strategics of it all. Lakers versus Celtics. You know what I'm saying? We'll get to that prediction later. Is there anything else that I got? Justice for Julius Randles. No. We need to get that man some help. You know what I'm saying? A little intervention. Because you know what I'm saying, my shooty hoop Noah reputation is at stake, even though it's two-time All NBA. So like, I won. You know what I'm saying? Like I won in the Julius Randle is actually a good basketball player debates. Because that's, if anybody knows my history, like my whole thing is like just don't lie about what people be doing on the court, man. You trying to say Julius can't play basketball, you are lying. You know what I'm saying? You try to say D'Lo sorry, you are a liar. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the genesis of some of this like super support. I'm not like a super like Julius Randle fan or anything like that, but I will follow. You know what I'm saying? And so I just got to say my piece. You know what I'm saying? I just hope he come back better next year, no matter what jersey he's in. You know what I'm saying? And we just figure it out. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, appreciate everybody for showing up, even though you may not be here anymore. You're obviously not here anymore. And I think that's all I got for y'all. My neck is tingling. We're going to physical therapy tomorrow, and we'll be back better than ever. Probably a stream after game one, maybe. Or, you know, not right after, because, you know what I'm saying, that's when all the real shooty hoop talkers be talking in spaces and all that stuff. I ain't going to be doing that. And it's going to be a little earlier. So maybe, I don't know. Because all of the games are at 8:30. I might show up after a game or two. We'll see. But I'll definitely stream more often during the series. Health permitting. I'm talking way too much. I'm out of here. Have a good one. And yeah.